Welcome to Big Brother Basics, where we break down the basics of Big Brother Basics Season 3. I'm Jacob Harpel, and I'm a house guest this season. Joining me is the always fantastic, always fabulous Joe Gonzalez, who's also a house guest. So Guess what? We're going to have to replace them with some actual production members. My name's Keith Guerrero. I'm the host this season. Joining me are my other fellow production members, Jermaine Kendricks.
Hello.
Katie Vandervliet.
Hello.
And Nicholas Hammond.
Hey.
So we're going to be breaking down the things that are happening week one. It was quite an eventful week. Jermaine, anybody stand out to you at the end of the week, just personality-wise? Who stands out to you from the cast?
Personality-wise, oh my gosh, there's so many personalities. So personality-wise, the person who really stands out to me is Shelby. Shelby, when I think of this cast, Shelby is always like the first person that pops into my mind. Hilarious. She is just a big ball of energy, but can be kind of sarcastic, can be kind of snarky, everything like that I would want in a house guest.
For sure. There are quite a few duos this season, so let's talk about some of them because some of it came into play. Katie, let's talk about Chris and Taylor. I think they were a pretty central duo this week. What's your impressions of them as a twosome?
Mm-hmm. And they're almost an obvious duo for anyone that's followed any sort of org community before. They've played together. They were in a solid alliance. They were really good friends, and they were always obvious about it. So I'm surprised at how many people seem to be believing the idea that they're not working together. I've heard Taylor say to so many people, oh, she doesn't really work with Chris that much, and they seem to genuinely be believing her, whereas Chris is also doing the same thing. And I'm really surprised at the little amount of research people seem to have put into these people, and just how well they're playing off that particular relationship. So I was quite surprised how much they're getting away with it. I don't know if that'll last for the entire season, but for this round, it seemed to have done quite well because they're not seen as a duo. They're seen in a group of people, but not as two solid people. So that I was really impressed with.
I completely agree with you. Nick, let's talk about the twist, the production members that turned house guests. How do you think Jacob and Joe are doing, and how are they doing as a twosome?
Well, I think they're doing a really good job because I was a little bit surprised when they came in as a twist and no one seemed to really react much. And when I listened to them in the diary room, it sounds like they're always talking about each other. They're definitely talking to each other a lot. They're working with each other. They're in the same, social groups. But no one, at least yet, has targeted them for that reason. Everyone is just kind of like, oh, well, that's fine, whatever. But they're doing really well. They got what they wanted this week, both of them. But we'll see if they play it up too hard or not.
Right. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of this first week. So the house call happened. Maybe one of the most awkward house calls that's ever happened in Basics history. But Jermaine, what were your thoughts after the first house call night one? After, bringing in 13 people with so much potential and then looking at all that dead air.
Oh my God. I was like, what is going on? I mean, honestly, if Chris hadn't been there and if Dustin hadn't fed off his energy, they would have just been sitting at their computer staring at each other. Mm-hmm. It was just so awkward. Just people were just there. You got Taylor sitting over here on her phone, not giving two fucks about anything going on in the room. People would come in, they would say a couple of things. You've got Pam who's kind of choppy and in and out, and it's it was a mess. And it was that night was just basically the Chris Brown and Dustin show, and everybody else were just special guests. So it was oh, what did we do? What did we do with this group?
So you did mention Pam. Pam was quick to kind of leave the call. And over the next 4 days, because it did start on Thursday, the next competition wasn't until Sunday, Pam didn't really socialize with the house guests. Katie, what were your thoughts with how Pam handled this particular group of people, knowing that she is the oldest in the bunch and it's a bunch of millennials that like to drink, party, and stay up late?
Well, she definitely from the start knew what her role would be. She said it in her DR. She said it to us that she was like, okay, I'm going to play the mom role because these kids are drinking all the time. And so she played that role really well. And in the past, I know in other games it's worked really well for her, but it didn't seem to necessarily connect because I think these kids aren't kids anymore. You have someone like Chris Brown who's in his 30s and Joe Gonzalez who like works his job and they're not children in the sense that she thought they were. I think she judged them a little quickly, and they in turn saw that and judged her back for playing that role that I think she should have taken more time to decide that that maybe wasn't the role that was best for her here. And so she did take a step back playing that mom role. Say, oh, I have kids. I got to go do my kid thing. And I know she was busy with a bunch of things this week, but I think she overplayed that role a little bit to the point where it made people a little uncomfortable.
Most definitely. And another person that potentially stood out for the wrong reasons is Michael Brady. He was gone for the first, I would say, 1, 2, 3 days because he was on vacation and he was trying to play catch up. Nick, it's pretty interesting that you're going to be answering about Michael Brady, considering your social performance in season 1 as well. You're gone first couple days for the social period too. Michael Brady was in your similar situation. What did you think about Michael Brady trying to play catch up, and do you think it was too little too late? Did he need to win a competition?
I do think that he definitely needed to win that competition. I was really happy that he did win because I don't want to see like a player like him go out, because that was something that was really, if he could have been there, he would have been there. And yeah, so just like me, he won the first HOH, which is honestly like I think it's a pretty good thing to do. A lot of people like to throw the first HOH, but what I think is really nice about it is that people have to come to you for information. If it weren't for him winning that, people could have continued ignoring him. He would have tried to reach out and they don't have to give him anything. But since he had the power, he got a lot of information that week. So I think it was good that he won. And, I think he kind of bounced back a little bit, but we'll talk about that when we get to the eviction.
For sure. And lo and behold, Michael Brady pulls out the win in head of household. It came down to Michael Brady and Joe. It was later revealed, I'm not sure if in his confessionals, but I'm friends with Joe in real life. Joe threw it. Joe threw it to Michael Brady. He wanted Michael Brady to win. He's like, you know what? Throw Michael Brady a bone. He is absent. Let me put him in a position of power. And Michael Brady becomes the head of household. Jermaine, now, what should Michael Brady do? Do you think that his move is to nominate people like, say, Pam the inactive, or maybe not inactive, but just somebody that's not social with everybody? Or should he go after some top threats since he was so, I guess, easy to potentially nominate had he not won HOH?
Well, obviously, first week, people really don't want to like make like really big waves. And with him, integrating himself into the group, he basically had to do something that would appease the house, that would definitely get him in their good graces, which is why I think he went with the nominations that he did, because it was like, hey, the house kind of really doesn't want this, doesn't really gel well with these people, or have some concerns about, the people that ended up being nominated. So I think he played it pretty smart. He did also, with one of them, have a more direct reason, which was kind of like just what he needed to be like, oh, perfect, you can go up.
Right. And so, Katie, it was between 3 people for Michael Brady for his initial nom set. It was between Andrew, who was basically his direct target because Andrew didn't respond to his hello for 3 days, and then responded with, oh, I know it seems fake, but congratulations on winning HOH. So it was between Andrew, it was between Pam, who basically did not talk to anybody. But then Brady was also getting a lot of pressure from a lot of people to put up Mandy. Katie, do you think that it was a misstep for Brady to not put up Mandy, or do you think it was okay for him to not put up Mandy?
I think that ultimately Andrew was the biggest target there, and so I see his logic in saying, okay, I want to put Andrew up against someone who's really nice, who probably won't go home, and ultimately I see the logic in that. But for a first week, Brady is a big player who makes big moves, and I'm really surprised that he didn't take the opportunity to make that big move and put up 2 players who I know that Andrew was not happy with him, but also everyone was talking about his 3 words on his picture and how much that was affecting. So that was an obvious put up. But Mandy was also in people's confessionals, some people rubbing them the wrong way with her sort of dominating personality and calls. And so instead of choosing to put up 2 big targets because he wanted Andrew out so specifically because he felt the personal grudge against him, he went with Pam, which ultimately I don't think ended up working out for him in the end. And so I wouldn't say that it was the smartest move to potentially do, but I mean, that remains to be seen in future weeks.
For sure. And I do want to make a quick comment to Andrew specifically because of the 3 words. It is something that we decided to implement because of a future competition. But I think that Andrew did have the most challenging word sets out of anybody to overcome. And so anybody's looking for a reason to nominate anybody week 1. If manipulative and willing to do anything is plastered across your forehead, then you have a lot of ground to cover to prove that you're not manipulative and not willing to do anything in a game where deception is reality. So I was rooting for you, Andrew. I was rooting for you the entire week, and I'm so glad you persevered in that mess of a veto competition. Oh, Lord. This cast was like struggling for the easiest competition. I swear, it wasn't even that difficult. But we had Ryan, who was a no-show. We had Pam, who just had a terrible internet connection. And then they were able to like figure it out 2 rounds for free for the remaining 4 competitors. And it ended up getting down between the HOH and the nominee, Michael Brady versus Andrew. And Nick, what was your reaction when Andrew was able to pull through and win that veto competition?
I was really excited because I just love when like there's power shifts, and I love to see the drama that unfolds when, you know, the HOH is forced to make a replacement nominee. Also, I'm glad that Andrew's going to get hopefully a second chance at this game. Like, he was an easy first target because he wasn't super well known, and like you said, because of those 3 words. But I'm really hoping that he kind of bounces back after this and hopefully can get his footing in the game. And yeah, so I was excited. I didn't know what was going to happen, and that's what I want in a Big Brother game.
Exactly. So the theme this week is Michael Brady writes checks, and we're going to see if he can cash it. Because he's telling everybody they're safe except for the nominees. And guess what? One of the nominees wins the power of veto. Andrew, who was his target, is now going to get off the block. Michael Brady doesn't want to accomplish getting rid of Pam. He feels like that would be a waste of an HOH reign. So who is he going to set his sights on? Jonathan. Now, earlier this week, Michael Brady and Jonathan were on a one-on-one Skype call where Michael Brady basically promised Jonathan his safety. Now we're fast forward to the veto potentially being used, and Jonathan is definitely the target in Michael Brady's mind. What are your thoughts on this, Jermaine? And how do you think Michael Brady handled targeting Jonathan?
You know, it's one thing to kind of vaguely be like, oh, hey, you're good with me. Like, we have a clean slate because, you know, there was some, you know, tension between them, like, coming into the game. And it's one thing to be like, hey, you're good. You know, we're fine. But to, like, say, hey, you're safe. I'm not targeting you. And then to be like, oh, wait a second. Yes, I am, because of some hearsay. I don't know how trustworthy that makes him look in the eyes of, like, the house.
Mm-hmm. And we're giving Michael Brady, you know, a lot of criticism. But on the flip side, I do want to criticize Jonathan. I'll start first. But I watched that initial call between Jonathan and Michael Brady, and Michael Brady was trying to throw a bone to Jonathan. But all Michael Brady got when he told Jonathan, hey, you're safe, is Jonathan saying, okay, cool, can I go now? Bye. Katie, how much responsibility should Jonathan take in getting backdoored when he's giving these types of messages to the person in power?
I think that's a bit of a rookie move maybe on Jonathan's behalf, because he knows better. He knows that this whole Big Brother game specifically are based on relationships. Like, he's not new to this community. And so with somebody like Michael Brady, who he has a past relationship with that isn't a positive relationship, that hasn't been good in the past, to just A, take everything Brady's saying at face value, and B, be so quick about it and say, okay, cool, thanks, bye, is something that I don't think a lot of people would do if they were truly playing the game the way that like the winner would play the game. And so I don't think it was a smart move on his part. I don't think it'll bite him in the ass because of like the events that happened after that. It seemed to work out, but at the time when I saw that, I was not impressed with his gameplay at all.
Most definitely. So we go to the veto ceremony, and Andrew uses the power veto on himself, and Michael Brady has to face the music that everybody, except for Jonathan and Pam, are prepared for, which is a Jonathan backdoor. Nick, I kind of have like a two-parter for you. What is your thoughts on everybody not telling Jonathan the plan? Do you think that it's impressive, or are you shocked that nobody shared that piece of information with Jonathan? And then tell me a little bit about what happened afterwards when Jonathan hit the block.
Yeah, so first question, yes, I'm really surprised that that word didn't get out, especially since it seemed like the entire house knew except for Jonathan. And I don't know if that speaks to Jonathan like not having good social game, or if it just speaks to everyone else just being really tight-lipped, which is not what I would expect, but maybe it's a good thing. Yeah, that was rough to watch. Jonathan was blindsided. Afterwards, he said he wasn't surprised, but he definitely was taken aback. And yeah, I don't know. It's a weird situation. Like, it seemed like for Brady, this was something that was definitely going to happen. It seemed like he had the votes to get rid of Jonathan, and that's kind of what he wanted to do before he nominated him, make sure he would leave. But I don't really know if nominating Jonathan was smart. After you said they had a conversation, they talked about safety, and I think Jonathan genuinely does or would have wanted to work with Brady, even though he maybe didn't express that very well in that Skype call. So the question now is, will Jonathan ever be able to work with Brady again, or is this it for them forever? I don't know.
Most definitely. Something that kind of surprised me in the whole nomination is how apologetic Michael Brady was to Jonathan's face. Because behind his back, Michael Brady was gunning so hard for Jonathan to go. And then as soon as he had to face Jonathan face to face, he's kind of like, I'm so sorry, I don't want to take this experience away from you, realizing the ramifications of what backdooring Jonathan would happen to Jonathan's game this week. So Jermaine, what were your thoughts on Michael Brady's nomination of Jonathan, specifically him being so apologetic?
You know, when you nominate someone, you know, there's like a multitude of reasons. There's, you know, you can give your bullshit reasons, or you can be straight up front, or you can kind of skirt around the issue. But to nominate someone and to just be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I hate to do this. Like, this is terrible to do this to you. It makes you seem very flighty. That's how I would take it, you know, looking at it. It then makes you wonder, like, okay, is he like just acting on impulse? Is there really like more behind this nomination? Like, what is he thinking? Because like you said, he's so adamant behind the scenes to put him up, and then when he actually has to look him in the face and do it, it's like, oh my God, like, I'm sorry. But I mean, that's one thing that's really great about this game, is that you got to nominate them to their face, right there, what they're right in front of you.
Exactly. So now it's Jonathan and Pam on the block, and it's basically a bunch of sharks going around the nomination chair, salivating at the mouth to take care of their own personal agenda. Now, Katie, what do you think Jonathan's move is at this point? Right now, he's bringing in people in the call. He's not really getting much, but he brings in Sean, and he finally hears names like, okay, this person is definitely voting against you. This person isn't necessarily voting against you. Let's actually just talk about Sean, because Sean has loose lips. He says names to everybody. He's talking about Taylor to Jacob and Joe. He's talking about Jacob and Joe to Taylor, making them mistrust each other. What are your thoughts on Sean in this game and how he's handling it?
Sean is spreading information really wide and really thin, which can be a really great move in dire situations and a really bad move early on in the game. And in case you haven't noticed, it's early on in the game. So I think the move that would normally work for him later on is really going to turn against him right now, because nobody knows each other well enough yet, with apart from people like Chris and Taylor, to really trust anybody. And so he's already spreading that mistrust. All it takes is two people from opposite sides to compare notes on Sean for him to be done for. And that will eventually happen. Like, there's no way that's not going to happen in the future. So I think for him, it was a really poor decision. I think he's doing really well this round. And so but he needs to pick a side. The boy needs to pick a side and stick with it. Because right now, everyone thinks he is in the middle and he is like some shady guy. They're already starting to see that. And he is that guy. But it shouldn't be that obvious this soon. Like, what happened that it's so obvious right now? So
I was actually super surprised. I'm forgetting the timeline because so many calls happened, but there was kind of an initiative, a push for there to be a 6-person group from Jacob's end. Jacob wanted like Jacob, Joe, Shelby, Sean, Dustin, and Taylor all together before like Vito was even like replaced, before like a replacement was even happened. And I'm like, how did you pick these people? Why are you wanting to make a group? And it was really that information from Sean to Taylor, because Sean was doing the feelers, seeing if Taylor was interested in the group, and she was like, no. And then she went to her boy Chris and was like, yo, we need to talk. There are these tight people. She just assumed that all these people are tight now. And so in Taylor's mind, there's this tight 4-person group. Right now, I think there's like a perception of 3 people, Shelby, Dustin, and Joe. That's kind of like a perception from the house. But she also throws Jacob in there. And I think that's dangerous. I think somebody like Taylor, knowing already that those 4 people want to work together, even before Jonathan was nominated, like Taylor is she has a good read on the house. Contrarily, I think that now Jacob and Joe are on to Taylor. Like, they are so on to Taylor. When Jacob tried to do some feelers for Taylor before Jonathan was nominated, Taylor was basically like, I want to support Brady and whatever Brady does. If Jonathan was going to be the replacement, I'm going to do that. Basically shutting off any strategic talk with Jacob. So Jacob immediately backed off, was like, I'm going to give you big ass shit until you bring up some strategy to me. And then continually got less and less trusting of Taylor, to the point where now I think Taylor is completely gunning after Joe and Jacob, and Joe and Jacob are completely gunning after Taylor. Nick, what do you think of this dynamic? Because it's John and Pam on the block.
Yeah, that is what's so crazy about this week. Like, I couldn't believe how many people had such a big stake in this first week eviction. Like, usually the week 1 eviction is like, okay, yeah, I'll just vote with the majority, whatever. I don't really care which way, one way or the other. But it seemed like a lot of people, specifically those 2, Taylor and Jacob, really, really, really wanted their target to go home. And that was a little bit surprising to me at first. Like, Jacob really wanted Pam out and Taylor really wanted Jonathan out. Now, I know that Taylor and Jonathan have some like history in the past, I guess. I'm not really super aware of, but I know that they have kind of a negative relationship. But I was more surprised by Jacob really pushing to get Pam out, because it seems like for someone like him, who is part of the twist and is part of a pair with Joe, you would think he would want to lay low and just kind of be in the background. But he's not. He's trying to play the game really hard. So I like watching that. I'm really happy with it. But I think, Taylor's a really good player. She's one of the people that I have my eye on as like, potential to go really, really far. So I think these 2 going at each other it's like 2 power players going after each other. So I love watching it.
I think both sides too have valid arguments to get rid of either nominee. I think Taylor and Chris are threatened that Jonathan will just go with the BB people, Shelby, Joe, Jacob, and that's a scary group if they're already that tight and willing to vote in the minority as a solid foursome. So I think Taylor and Chris are very justified in saying, let's get rid of a potential number for them. At least it'll be 4 and not potentially 5. And let's send home Jonathan. Contrarily, Shelby and Jacob's argument about Pam surviving every single week for being such a weak competitor and being a pawn and being scared to death sitting on the block next to her for the fear of, hey, if this sets the tone, we keep Pam in. If you're on the block next to Pam, you're going to be eliminated. Jermaine, if you were in the middle, which argument would win you over? Would you vote out Pam or would you vote out Jonathan?
So, it's funny because when I first heard this, I was like, I mean, yeah, you're gonna get rid of Jonathan. Jonathan's, a threat to you. Like, Pam is whatever. She's not much of a threat. But after actually sitting back and thinking about it, I was like, oh my God, that totally makes sense. She's on the block. She's the perfect pawn star. Like, if you end up on the block next to her, you're like, oh fuck. Not only am I the target, but like, there's no way that she is leaving. And to me, I was like, you know what? It does make sense that if you want to have a competitive game, if you want to be in a game where everybody is really trying their hardest, not that Pam is not trying her hardest. Pam is just, unfortunately, I hate to say this, but a bit handicapped in a sense with her internet as far as what she can do. Then yeah, like I would go ahead and cut her off because I don't want no pawns, lasting longer than me.
Right. And like usually there's some people that you can hide behind, but in this cast it's exposed. Everybody's active, everybody's willing to participate, and there's very few Pams and Amandas in this cast, where potentially the social relationships aren't there and they're not threatening. So we go into the eviction, and I assume that Jonathan's going. Based on everything that I've heard leading up to the eviction ceremony, I'm pretty sure Jonathan's going. I think Jonathan even thinks Jonathan's going. And lo and behold, Andrew lives up to his words. Manipulative and willing to do anything. He told both sides that he's doing whatever he's doing. He got into the eviction booth and was like, I don't know. And he voted to evict Pam, causing chaos. 5-5, exactly what Michael Brady did not want. And now Michael Brady has to make the decision. Michael Brady votes out Pam. Katie, what do you think of Michael Brady's decision to send home Pam in a tie situation?
So I know that Michael Brady and Jonathan went on a call a bit ago, and Jonathan essentially convinced Michael Brady to campaign to keep him, despite Michael Brady putting him up as their replacement nominee. And first of all, kudos to Jonathan for managing that, because Michael Brady's the type of person who will say something to your face and do something totally different behind your back. So when Michael Brady was like, okay, yeah, no, Jonathan, I'll campaign to keep you, I didn't put any merit into that. And then I think he started hearing about people actually genuinely campaigning for John, and Jonathan doing all this, putting in lots of work, and realized that he might have to cash this check that he had written out. And so when it came time for the eviction and Michael Brady was put in a spot, I believe his exact words were something like, you guys made me do this, like, F it, I vote to evict Pam. And I think for him, it was him keeping his word to Jonathan, because he could evict Jonathan and keep Pam, and Pam wouldn't work for him, but he had made a promise to Jonathan, and in keeping that word, I think he recognizes that he can work with Jonathan in the future and show him, you know what, like, I know I put you up, but I said I'd do this, and I did it, so I'm good for my word, and we're good now. And I think it's a really clean slate for him, and Jonathan is a good player that Brady could work with in the future. I just couldn't believe it.
Neither could I. I think literally after Andrew cast his vote and he went off, I said, well, I didn't expect that. And just brought in the next person. Yeah, the vote was 5-5. Michael Brady sent home Pam. Nick, I do want to talk about Sean's vote. I recorded his personal DR. I haven't posted it up yet, but he told me his reasonings as to why he was voting Jonathan, despite, Michael Brady changing his mind and all that stuff. He was basically super shaded out that, like, what if Andrew was the nomination? What if Andrew stayed on the block? There was no push to save Andrew. Andrew probably would have just been evicted. But now that Jonathan's on the block, it seems like all of his allies are willing to fall on the sword for him. So for Sean, it was like more so from Joe's perspective from him is like they want to save John as opposed to get out Pam. What do you think about this logic of Sean? And do you think that he followed a correct instinct in that, hey, there's probably something fishy here. I should still vote out Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, when you explain it like that, it makes sense, because if someone's on the block, when Jonathan first got nominated, everyone, including us, probably thought, okay, this is so obvious, he's leaving. There's no way he's surviving this, right? But if you're Sean and you don't really, you're thinking, okay, let me just get rid of Jonathan, that's fine. And then all of a sudden things start changing around you. it could be scary. Like, you don't know, what is Jonathan like super what's the word, persuasive? Is he persuading people to do this, or does he have a ton of allies that are campaigning for him? Why am I not a part of it? You know, why don't I want to keep Jonathan? So yeah, it's a little bit suspicious. It can be a little bit scary, because now that Jonathan, you know, if Jonathan stays in the house, you know that there's people working for him, or that he has a lot of push and influence in the house. So I do think that if Sean thought his vote could evict Jonathan, yeah, I do think from that perspective, it does make sense to vote him out, because he's a more maybe powerful player than Pam, potentially.
Awesome. So Jermaine, who's your favorite alliance? We were called into a lot of alliance chats this week. Who's your favorite grouping right now?
So the grouping that I am most excited about right now is definitely Jacob and Shelby, by far.
Oh, me too.
They are hilarious together, and it was very, like, as soon as they got together, it was a very natural, like, you know, just the way that they communicated with each other, a natural stream of, natural, just like thought process together. And I was like, okay, they are gelling together really well. Like, I feel like not only are the two of them going to be great together, I don't think people really would think like Jacob, Shelby, yeah, they're going to be real tight with each other. So I think that they have a very strong possibility of going really far into this game.
Katie, who do you want to win the next head of household?
That's a good question, because I think different winners will bring different results. I know if Andrew wins, there might be some vengeance coming from his side, which I think could be fun. But I've also heard conversations with people now that they're unsure, because the house doesn't know that it's Andrew that flipped, right? Everyone seems to think it could be Sean, or it could be these people. And so I think if you get like a Taylor or Chris Brown winning, they could put up the wrong people due to their misconceptions, and I think that could be a lot of fun to watch. I don't want to see someone like Ryan win it, because someone who's like already super loyal, he's picked Taylor, like I don't want to see that happen. So I think I want to see someone who will cause some mayhem, maybe like a Joe, since he's picked a side as well, but like has obvious enemies. That would be fun too. I don't know. It's a tough question. I'm gonna go though with I think I want to see Andrew in it.
Ooh, very interesting. And Nick, it's still 12 people in the game. The vote was 5-5, but there can still be many dynamics that are happening. Is there a particular pair or alliance that is not created that you want to see? If you don't have an answer, I do.
No, I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head. That's a good question. That's not created already. I don't know. Okay, so I heard a little bit. There is one, I guess, that I can think of. I heard a little bit of Taylor mentioning in her diary room that she does talk to Andrew. I think this was maybe before he was nominated or while he was nominated, but I have not seen like an official alliance chat. If there is one, we haven't been added to it yet. And also, unfortunately, Andrew doesn't post a lot of DRs right now, so I don't know if that's a thing, but I would like to see that as a duo, because I think Taylor's a really good player. I don't really have a sense yet of whether Andrew's like a good player or not yet, but I do like him and I do think he's interesting. So I feel like those two would be a fun group.
What I want is one person from one side and one person from the other side to team up and to be the master manipulators for the rest of the season. And the people,
okay, who specifically?
I have people in mind.
Oh my God.
The people that I want are Chris Brown and Dustin.
Oh my God.
The extrovert and the introvert.
Yes, that would be good.
Genius pairing, because Chris is getting all the information from Taylor. Taylor is connected to everybody. So Chris can do damage with that information. Dustin has got buy-in from people like Jacob, Joe, and Shelby. If those two connect,
oh my God,
you know how unstoppable they would be?
Oh my God.
That's what I want. So I just hope that they can see it and that they develop enough trust in each other to take each other to the end. That's what I want.
I like you took the words right out of my mouth, because I was just like, there has to be two people on both sides who while they appear to be loyal to their sides, definitely don't mind mixing and mingling with the other and, kind of be like, oh, hey, so I heard this. Oh, hey, so I heard this. Let's compare notes. It would be genius. Like, it is so, oh my God, like, I hope it happens. It'd be so good, especially because even though Dustin is in, like, with that group, you don't really have anybody outright saying, like, Dustin's my ride or die. Mm-hmm. And so then you go over to the other side, and you would think that Chris and Taylor, while they are close, Taylor has said in her DRs, yes, like, I like Chris, and me and Chris are, well together, but I'm going to keep some partnerships maybe not so obvious to him. So if Chris were to go behind her back and make his own partnership, like with someone that she isn't really like connected to, it would be so good. Like, so good.
Yeah, because I don't want Chris to depend on Taylor. That's my concern for him in this game. He's already like putting so much stock in Taylor. Like, he's being so strategic with her, and he's being pretty, like the bubbly like extrovert to everybody else. And I'm like, you have to show that strategic side to someone else. So I hope he does that soon. Katie, Nick, any final remarks for you before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I just want to say Dustin is so close to my heart in this game. I love the game he's playing because he knows that he's not anybody's number one, I think. And I think that's going to make him work extra hard. And I think that that'll make the him and Chris Brown thing a possibility because, like, that would be amazing. But I also think he's not quiet enough that people think he's a pushover, and he's not loud enough that people think he's a giant threat. I think he's a really good middle place right now, and he's probably the person that I want to see like start going forward and making big moves. On the same line, I gotta say I'm like a tad disappointed in Ryan because I thought he would be that player, and he seems to have just like fallen victim to TSL and left there. And he's talking to other people, and he even said like, oh, everybody seems to like me, but I don't hear anybody really talking about him in like the, oh, Ryan's key to my game. They're like, oh, I have Ryan. And I'm disappointed in that because I thought he might be a little more aggressive in that sense. So I don't know. That's how I feel.
I'd also agree with Ryan because he missed the veto competition and veto ceremony, and I love to expel people week 2. Do it again, Ryan. Do it again. Nick, do you have any?
I hope that doesn't happen. I hope Ryan comes back, but I do know that he said that he likes to lay low in the beginning in his interview. But yeah, as far as closing remarks, I'm so happy with the way this week worked out. I think it's awesome that there was so much drama. There was a veto usage. We had a renom. We had a potential backdoor, but then a blindside weird tie vote. Like, I could not have predicted a crazier week. And I will say I'm very excited to see what Jonathan does now that he's been granted a second chance. And also, if we're throwing it out there, I'm going to make a winner pick right now and just guess Shelby because I think has a really good social game and she's not on anyone's radar right now. Which is where you want to be in week 1. So I think she has potential to possibly win. So I'm gonna lock her in right now as my winner pick.
Wow. Let's all be winner picks. Katie, what's yours? So Jermaine and I can think.
You can pick Shelby too, right?
Goodness.
I don't want to her.
I wanna pick Shelby too, and I would pick Shelby 100%, but just because you picked her, I'm going to switch over and say that I see I'm just going to say it because I think Dustin is my winner pick right now, just because he is, I think, in such a good position. I think everybody else has either heat on them or like a, oh, this person will be my target pawn if I don't have anybody else on them. And I feel like Dustin has neither. And so he's going to be my winner pick. That'll probably change in the coming weeks, but Shelby would be my other one, but you already picked that, so I'm not going to pick that.
All right, Jermaine, who's the winner of Big Brother Basics Season 3?
You know what? And it's so crazy because I don't know why I keep getting really strong winner vibes from Jacob. And that is, I know, that's out there. Because coming into this game, nobody really was like, oh, the production twist, like, oh, whatever. Well, first week, the two production twist members, one, Joe, definitely played a little, what I feel, a little too hard, and definitely like pushed a little too much, and it was definitely noticed. Whereas Jacob kind of, like you said, put some feelers out, tried to approach some people. You know what, this isn't working. Tried to, I don't know about this one. Locked him a really good, solid final two. Shelby would be somebody else that I would pick as well, but I don't know. I feel like Jacob is really going to surprise a lot of us.
I'm going to say Mandy. Here's why. I think Mandy has usurped Pam's pawn role. She has no social relationships. She's going to have no positive or negative feelings when people enter the jury. And I feel like this is going to be a bitter jury with some burnt relationships. And Mandy's not going to have any part in that. So I think people will be the least bitter to Mandy. And Mandy mentioned she likes to attach to somebody like super strategic. So if she just attaches herself to the right person, makes it to the end, and just Natalie White's the Russell, I think that she can win. So my vote right now is for Mandy, but anything can happen. Again, thank you all so much, production team, for breaking down the basics. And thank you so much, cast, for being so awesome week one. We're looking forward to the remaining of the season. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.